Okay then, it's raining out. I've been doing some reorganization work here a little bit, making use of my shelves that I put in and all that. Ooh, that's kind of a freaky look, that is. Ah, there is Rocky. There he is. That's Rocky. That's Rocky. There's dirt on the floor I have to sweep up. Anyway, I am always kind of disgusted, really, by the level of cognitive dissonance that we have here in my country of Canada. I just had a bunch of comments removed from a Facebook group I belong to because I guess they were considered inappropriate or something. I don't really know, but basically, it's a group about abandoned places. People submit pictures of abandoned houses and businesses and so on that they come across, and there's an awful lot of them around here, because this is a depressed area, especially now. The whole country's depressed. But this particular farm, somebody made an inquiry about this farm that has a great big F Trudeau sign on display. And they were asking about that anyway. And this is a farm. They wondered if it was abandoned. Turns out it isn't an abandoned property. People do live there. That was a place very closely connected to the trucker convoy protests, which occurred in Ottawa a couple of years ago. Now, here's the thing. The truckers, they were lawful protesters. There's some of them are facing charges. Some of them are still facing charges. Tamara Leach, who was one of the main organizers, and another fella who was also a man who was also a main organizer by the name of Chris Barber. So Tamara Leach and Chris Barber, they are the subjects of the longest mischief trial in Canadian history. Mischief. That's what they're charged with, and the trial's been going on now for longer than any other mischief trial in Canadian history. See, the process is the punishment. They didn't commit a crime, and so instead of just putting an end to it and saying, look, there was no crime committed, and we're just dropping the charges, instead, they're putting them through hell. And it's been an ongoing thing. They can't get on with their lives because they're held hostage by this stupid trial. Like I said, the longest mischief trial in Canadian history. Nothing punitive about that, Anyway, what got me in trouble, I guess, is that people were saying how they shouldn't be allowed to have the F Trudeau sign on their property because it's vulgarity and it's showing disrespect for our Prime Minister and so on. And I commented and I said, any country, I said they have a right to have whatever they want on display on their property. And any country where the people cannot express those sorts of sentiments against politicians is not a free country, but is a dictatorship. Well, I had all kinds of people, well, not all kinds, I had a couple of people calling me an idiot and telling me I was a conspiracy theorist and all the rest of it. One guy said I was so deep in the conspiracy closet that I was finding next year's Christmas presents, which was funny, I'll give him that, but no, there's nothing funny about the situation, though. And when they were calling me names and all the rest of it, and saying how people shouldn't be allowed to display that kind of vulgarity and that kind of disrespect for the Prime Minister on their property, I answered by saying, look, we had a foreign army come into this country and beat and brutalize Canadian citizens who were part of a legal protest at the behest of our Prime Minister. And that actually did happen. That's how the convoy protest ended. It ended with a bunch of foreign soldiers who were flown in to this country in an airplane that landed up north. It landed up around North Bay at a military base or an Air Force base up there. And then they were bussed down here to Ottawa. And those were the men that beat the protesters with clubs. They were all dressed in green uniforms with no name tags or no country of origin on them or anything. Nothing to tell you where they came from, but they were foreigners. They were flown into this country from parts unknown, but they weren't from here. And that constitutes an invasion. Our Prime Minister invited foreigners, a foreign army, to come into our country and to beat our citizens into submission. And my statement was, he's lucky, the Prime Minister is very lucky, that the worst thing that's happening to him is that people are displaying signs that are saying F Trudeau. Because there's a lot of countries in the world where far worse than that would happen. You know? I mean, he actually asked for an invading army to come in here and to go after Canadian citizens. Look, I understand there are people who disagree with the trucker convoy protest. I support it myself. I understand that not everybody does. I know people who don't. There are people I think quite highly of. People who I like a great deal who disagree with me about the trucker convoy protest, and who feel that it was wrong of them to do that, and who would call it an insurrection or an uprising or whatever. But even those people, I think, would have to concede that it was handled badly, and that even if they believed that it should have been put down by force, even if people do believe that it was right that it be put down by force, I think they'd be hard-pressed to rationalize calling in a foreign army to do that, which constitutes an invasion. When you have a foreign army come onto your soil and attack your citizens, even if the citizens they're attacking are people who are undesirables, people who are, insurrectionists or whatever it is people think these people were. Again, I disagree with those people, but I know there are a lot of people who feel that way. There's a lot of people who feel the way I do too. The country's really split and divided on the issue. But the bottom line is, even if you believe that these people were reprehensible, nasty, evil, insurrectionist garbage, you'll have a hard time rationalizing bringing in a foreign army to deal with that. Our Prime Minister invited an invasion. They invited an invasion force to come to our country and to attack Canadian citizens. He's lucky he hasn't been hanged for treason. And that's the truth of it. So, a few F Trudeau signs here and there, even if they are vulgar, is nothing compared to what could have happened and to what probably should happen. That's the bottom line. I'm not advocating that the man be lynched. I don't believe in that. I'm not advocating for that. I think he should be put on trial in an international court for crimes against humanity. That's my opinion. And I believe that inviting a foreign army onto Canadian soil to attack Canadian citizens, regardless of who those citizens are. Look, I don't think we should have a foreign army coming onto Canadian soil to attack people like Paul Bernardo who, for anybody who doesn't know, is kind of an infamous serial killer here in Canada, and who's now locked up for the rest of his life, has been for about 30 years. But horrible person. I think we're unanimous in that. I don't think there's anybody go to say Paul Bernardo's a great guy. But I wouldn't advocate having a foreign army come in to deal with him. These things should be handled in-house. These things should be handled within our own country by our own people. If you've got children and you have a disciplinary issue with your children, you don't invite your neighbor to come over to your house and discipline your children. You deal with that within your own family. You deal with that in-house, in your own house, your own family deals with that in its own way. And you don't invite outsiders in to deal with your business in your family. Well, our Prime Minister invited a foreign invading army to come in here and to attack Canadian citizens, regardless of whether they were right or wrong, these citizens who were attacked. Like I say, the country's divided on that. But regardless of that, they were still Canadian citizens. And so whatever was done with them should have been done, if anything was needed to be done, it should have been done internally by our own people. It's a basic rule of politics that you do not invite an invading force to come and occupy your country for any reason. You don't do that. So, yeah, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, those people have a right to fly their flags or their sign, put their sign up or whatever, even if it is vulgar, and even if it is disrespectful to the Prime Minister or disrespectful to the office of the Prime Minister. That's a hallmark of living in a free country. If we're not able to do that, then we're not free. And look, people fly all kinds of flags and they all kinds of things, and they put up signs that I disagree with. And you know what? If they're doing it on their own property, they have every right to do it, and the fact that I might see it and that I might be offended is irrelevant. I'll uphold them in putting whatever symbology or whatever message or whatever it is they want on their property. Now, when it comes to public spaces, that's another matter. Public spaces are supposed to belong to everyone. I don't think we should have rainbow crosswalks, in the public spaces. I believe in God, I believe in Jesus, and I also don't think we should have Bible verses painted up everywhere in the public spaces. Because I think we have to be fair to everyone, and we have to acknowledge that the public spaces belong to everyone. So we shouldn't have rainbow crosswalks, nor should we have biblical passages referring to the practices of homosexuality as an aberration. Not in the public spaces. Churches should be allowed to preach that message. Private individuals should be allowed to say that message and to preach it. People should be allowed to have that message on display in their homes and on their property. But it don't belong in a public space. And the same goes for the homosexuals. If they want to fly their pride flags or whatever, all the more power to them. But they can fly them on their own property. And if I happen to be going past a property where a pride flag is flying, I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. I'm not going to get all offended and say, oh, they need to take that down. No, that's their property. And even though I disagree with it, if somebody were to tell me, oh, they need to take that down, I would say, no, that's their property. They can do what they want. It doesn't matter what we think of it. They can do what they want. Anyway, the people have every right to put their sign up to say F Trudeau. And if you love Trudeau, which is hard for me to imagine personally that anybody does, but there are those who do. He has his supporters. If you want to put a sign up saying that Trudeau is great, we love Trudeau. We love Justin. If you want to put a sign like that up, when I see it, it'll probably make me laugh. I'll probably say, oh God, what idiot put that up. But they're entitled to put it up, you know. I mean, I'll disagree with them, but I'll uphold them in their right to put it up. And if somebody says, hey, they shouldn't have that, I'll say, well, why not? It's their property. They can have what they want. You know, it's their property. If they want to come and put a sign up like that on any property that I would own or that I would rent or anything else, I would say absolutely not. But on their own property, they can display whatever the heck they want to display. So that's the bottom line anyway. That's it. Rocky is laying here behind me. There he is. I don't know what you can see of him. There he is. Yeah, there he is. All right. Hey. Okay. Well, we'll see you later. Yeah, there he is. He's wonderful. Bye for now.